Hello, everybody, and welcome to another Breathe Pulse. My name is Davis Dailey. I'll be your host for the night. This evening, we'll be talking to Will and Heather. We've got a nice Q&A session planned about their time spent living in a van. Should be really exciting. Feel free to ask them any questions if anything comes up for you. And without further ado, let's get right into it. Everyone welcome Will and Heather.
Hi guys.
Hello. Welcome.
Thank you, Davis.
Thanks. Happy to have you guys. How's the day?
It's going well. You're a gracious host as always.
Good.
We're always happy to see you.
Good. Yeah, this should be fun. So usually I start these pulses off with a little gratitude practice. So you're each responsible for saying something you're grateful for. My answer for this evening is cheap Coca-Cola cans from Aldi.
There you go.
Love those things.
I'm grateful for being able to be back at work this week. We just started being able to be back at work on Saturday, and it's nice to be back in a little bit of a normal routine, so that's really nice.
You stole mine.
And grateful for the opportunity to go first, I guess, there.
I guess I'm grateful for this opportunity to kind of be talking to a lot of people, which we do at work, but it's kind of nice to actually have some communication, and so that's great to be able to see you. And can't really see everybody's out there, but we hope there's a lot of people enjoying our time with us, so I'm grateful for that.
For sure. Good answers. Yeah, for those of you watching at home, these pulses are made special by your interactions with us. So please, if you have any questions or comments or whatever, musings, prompts, hit us up in the comments section. I'd love to see that. For those of you just tuning in, this is a Breathe Pulse. We do them every Wednesday, right around this time, sometimes on Sundays. You can go to our website, discoverbreathe.com, and check out what pulses we have coming up, and you can also watch this pulse and others after the fact on that page as well. So yeah, exciting things. Will and Heather, how long have you lived in your van thus far?
We're right at 2.5 years, just a little bit over, I guess, but yeah, so 2.5 years. And
Very
it's been
cool.
full time since we started.
And the van you're living in now, is this the first one that you've lived in, or what was kind of that progression?
Yeah, this is the first van we lived in. It went through a couple series of downsizing in our lives.
I especially downsized. I went from like living in a 4-bedroom, 2.5 baths, suburban home, raising my 4 boys, to we lived into kind of a larger condo, which we also ran the smaller version once I started closing down the yoga studios I owned. We ran with that out of there, and then finally to a smaller apartment and getting rid of more and more and more stuff in our lives. So it took a little bit of time. That was over like a 3-year period before we kind of arrived to this point.
What were some of the first things to go in your downsizing?
My giant flat screen TV.
I was gonna guess TV. Yeah.
A lot of furniture.
A lot of furniture.
A lot of books, and that was one of the hardest things to give away, I think, besides having to like really sort through all my kids' things they've made throughout the years and kind of decide what was worth like finding a space for and what was really just scribbles on a paper. But
yeah,
a lot of clothes. That was kind of hard for me. I was kind of a big clothing addict.
A lot of clothes went,
and now I'm down to 7 t-shirts and 3 pairs of pants. So
good numbers. And how many of those are Breathe shirts?
Pretty much all of them. Not the Breathe shirt.
Yeah.
I think at one point Jackie said, as Jack as we know her, said she hasn't ever seen Will not in a Breathe shirt, because we see her in Phoenix quite a bit. So
I'm the same way. And I also like most of the years I have two Breathe shirts. So like I get the question a lot like do you wash your clothes? I'm like, yeah, I do. And I'm wearing a clean shirt today, but I'm wearing the same shirt, but it's a different shirt of the same.
Exactly. I went through a phase in my senior year of high school. I wore our ultimate frisbee shirt every day for probably 4 or 5 months in a row. But I had two of them, so I just washed one every other day. So that might have been the groundwork for this clothing downgrade in the van life for sure.
You don't notice it that much because I do laundry, I guess, at least every few days to make sure we have all our stuff. But when you start seeing pictures of yourself and you're in the same thing, like when we like, especially if we're out somewhere and like traveling, I'm like, oh, I've got to find a different sweatshirt to put on. Like, that's when you really start to notice.
Same, yeah. Definitely downsizing the wardrobe makes sense, and getting rid of the TV. So now is your entertainment set up like computer or a phone or something like that?
It's just our iPad over there, and then our surround sound Bose speaker,
And the
Ah,
Nintendo Switch.
and the Nintendo Switch.
I'll get the whole entertainment center. Very nice.
Oh yeah.
So to kind of start at the beginning of the thing, the whole timeline of events, what was like the like initial reasoning behind getting a van and moving into it? Like, what was that?
I think for us, like, as I kind of said a little bit earlier, that we had been downsizing not just my house, but we had been downsizing my yoga studio. And then once to the point that we closed the brick and mortar part of my yoga studio, and we're mostly just focusing on doing festivals and other events such as that we realized after 2 summers in a row, we had spent 30,000 miles on the road, and just, it was constant packing and unpacking. And I think we both looked at each other and we knew that this is what we wanted to do. And we didn't know we were going to do it as soon as we did, but we knew this was going to be our plan. And so once we kind of made that decision, it was something, I think, when we had discussions, it was part of our life plan and our life goal that we both had before we went together, that self-awareness that we wanted a more minimal lifestyle. We really wanted to create a smaller carbon footprint and felt really good about doing that. And so as we looked at it, we're like, we love being camping, we love being outdoors. I think this is the life we want to have.
I like that. That makes a lot of sense that like you were already traveling around, and then like the van just enables you to do that more efficiently, as opposed to like I know a lot of folks are like working office jobs, and then there's like this like elusive dream of like living the van life, and then they like buy the van, they move into it, but then they're kind of like not, they're at a loss for like how to take advantage of it.
Yeah, I think we came from a little bit different perspective of people who are like huge adventurers who were spending a lot of time outdoors doing a lot of adventuring and stuff, to where it kind of adapted. We kind of progressed into doing a lot of adventures. We weren't. I mean, we were outside doing things, but we weren't doing like any sort of crazy like climbing excursions or anything like that. And it kind of was the opposite of what we've seen normal van life being, as to where like I have all my climbing gear, I have all my biking gear, I have all my weekend or three week adventure out of the year out of my office to experience this van life, to where we grew into it as well. Our life was kind of evolving into, we were just traveling all the time and wanting to be in a smaller space.
And to stop packing and unpacking.
Yeah.
Like every Monday and every Friday, like literally everything we had. So it was much easier.
Gotcha. Yeah, that's man, the van life. What an American dream. Is it as luxurious and dreamy as everyone thinks it is?
Yeah, I mean,
Why don't we give a little tour?
Do you guys want to see what it looks like in here?
Yeah, we could take the tour. That'd be great.
All right. Let me know if I'm going too fast because we worked on this. I'll start on the outdoors.
Yeah, give us the
Kind
front
of
patio
our
look.
storage. The front patio. All right, so this is our summer home. Front patio. This is the car we used to drive, the old Subi. That was our first adventure. Took the back seats out, and there's a whole bed platform back there. So now it's kind of a little pickup. But so we'll start with kind of like the storage in the back. This side's the fun side, I guess.
Cool.
I don't know if you can see back there. We got the rope bag, 2 paddle boards, all our slackline gear is over here, our physical slack lines, our coffee ration stash, bike pump, and then this is kind of the work side. Let's see if you can see back there. That light is our whole solar setup, which we can talk more about, but that's the whole power brain system of the operation. Bring us back. Let the light adjust here. Here's the toolbox.
Whoa.
Our miscellany idea wrenching session there with the sketch pad. Wrenches. Beaners and hardware.
The fun side looks to be bleeding into the work side. I appreciate that.
It's mostly work side. Ascension gear. And this is a special locked drawer of all our actual valuables, passports and shit that we lock up back here, so no one actually suspects we have our shit, but now everybody knows that's where it is, I guess.
So if you're looking to rob Will and Heather, there's where the goods are.
If you're looking to be an identity thief, it's the second drawer from the top and the back.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Is weight a concern that you
I've never
weighed in?
I never actually like weighed it, but it doesn't seem to wobble or be like putting any pressure on the suspension system, so I don't think we're even close to capacity. It's a 2.5 ton vehicle, and I don't think we're anywhere near that.
Fair enough.
Here's kind of the front door view, I guess. So as you come in, we've got our kitchen set up. So this is pretty primitive. Heather can demonstrate our hand pump here. That's where our water comes from. Water's a labor of love in the van here. So the blue tank at the bottom is the gray water. So that's our wastewater that's not black water, so it doesn't have any human waste in it.
Okay.
And we only use Dr. Bronner's 18-1 soap.
Yes, all natural, biodegradable soap. The 2 tanks are 7-gallon freshwater tanks. And then our trash bag with our empty White Claw cans in it. There.
And I also have a composting bag, which I don't need to use as much here because I can basically either just throw it out or go put it in his dad's compost. So that's a little easier situation then.
Our cooking platform is a 1-burner butane stove. So just a 1 pound butane burner, which are super efficient for what they are.
How long does one of those things last you?
That'll last us about.
It depends on how much I'm cooking. If we're cooking, like if we're out somewhere where we're literally cooking every day and having coffee and stuff in the morning and things like that, it'll probably last like 3 days, depending if I'm doing like 2 or 3 meals a day on it plus coffee. But if we're only doing like dinner on it, it'll last us a week, maybe a week and a half, sometimes a little bit longer.
Which they're
Okay.
recyclable. If you empty them all the way, you can put them in recycling, and they cost about $2 a can. So
Not bad.
not bad.
I like the hand pump option. When I had a van, I like installed a 12-volt electrical pump, and it would break about once every 3 weeks. And I went through so many 12-volt pumps. The hand pump seems way more reliable.
It's a bit. This is our fourth one. For some reason,
if he knows there's an extra one in the
yeah.
back now.
If you look closely, there's a spare in the back.
And so it's not necessarily. I don't know if it's the pump or our counter setup. So there's going to be some revisions this summer as well.
It's nice. It's nice though, because it like, I don't know. It really makes you pay attention how much water you're using too. So.
Mm-hmm. And show our pot.
And this is our kitchen utensils. This is a hang rack from IKEA with a bungee system and bags.
Looking good.
You can see tea at the bottom. Cast iron. Oh, the mug's the wrong way. Hold on. There we go. The We Like Mike mug.
A kitchen staple.
A kitchen staple. Our little spice rack, that's a new installation there. So food storage, we have a Dometic chest freezer. This is a 12-volt freezer or refrigerator, and it's just a chest fridge. So,
Whoa!
Open it up. It's got a lot of storage. I mean,
how much does one of those babies run you?
It's an upper. It's not the highest end fridge, but it was $650 if you can find a good deal on Amazon or on eBay.
Okay.
Angle fridges are going to be your top notch, but this thing runs at about 3 amp hours. So it only compresses when it needs to, instead of like a continuously running. Like if you went to buy like a cheaper 12-volt fridge from, say, like a truck stop or something, the compressor's going to be running the whole time.
Gotcha.
This thing will only compress, and you can set it. You can set the temperature. So once it hits 41 degrees, it'll turn the compressor on back down to 39. But you can turn it into a freezer if you want. So
Yeah, very cool. And is that like bolted into the ground or something, or
no?
does it
It's
stay
loose. There? It's loose. It'll stay here because I mean it's got enough weight in it, and it has rubber stoppers on the bottom.
Gotcha.
So we can move it out and like clean behind. Dog food storage for this fat boy.
Oh gosh.
And dirty laundry.
Yeah, this is essentially our mud room, I guess.
The hamper.
Like dog room, hamper area. Our servingware. So our three sets of bowls for one for company, 3 sets of plates, 1 for company.
One big one just in case.
A little fruit platter.
And our getting ready stuff. And our essentials like suntan lotion, bug screen, everything like that's in those kind of. The biggest bag is just for Will's buffs. So
yeah, this one's just buffs. So.
Only the essentials in the van life.
Here's the pantry. So this is like a $30 bookcase from IKEA. That's bolted into the wall.
On the bottom is all our shoes, is what I keep in. If you can see that.
Yeah, our shoe basket right there.
Our plants that can't be outside right now because it's too cold here are living in here.
Coffee making essentials, dry foods and goods.
But this actually drives the way it is. This is like...
Yeah, we don't strap any of the stuff down. And
crazy.
Don't
How does that
stays.
stuff not like just go everywhere?
because I installed this. I just have a piece of this, like
Yeah.
the you'd put in a kitchen drawer,
Yeah, it's like a
Oh.
so
nice little
nonstick.
kitchen drawer stuff, and it works magic. I mean, if we hit a huge bump on a turn, some stuff will fly. Like Kilroy up here will go flying a few times, but
But besides that, nothing really hardly falls. The plants all ride just safely when we drive, but
we have a queen size bed that Gracie takes a majority of up.
Here's a question from Mike Matterjack earlier.
Right now our max has been 3, but that we actually had yesterday a stray cat in here that we found and brought in here and got one whiff of paw and ran away. So I think we could probably do 4.
Are
Plus
you
the
counting
2
yourself as
No,
Celsa's
plus
animals?
the 2 other animals. So I guess 5 people have been sleeping in here regularly over the last month. We have on the sides, you can't see them, but on the side rails on each side we have USB chargers, so we can plug our phones in at night.
And are those 12 volt, or they
Yeah.
run through an inverter?
No, they're 12 volt. So we have 2 separate systems in here. We have our 12 volt system that runs these puck lights that you see at the top. So we have 3 levels of puck lights. There's one in the back that aren't on, those white dots up there.
Mm-hmm.
And then 2 in the middle. And Heather will show you, they're all on individual switches, so we can kind of adjust how much light is going on in here. So it's not like all the light all the time. The inverter is a 2500 watt inverter that does a 110 outlet. It's on right now. So we have 110 outlets, and then you can see the cigarette lighter. That's the 12 volt. That's where the fridge is plugged into. And then over here, we have another set of 110, and then the 12 volt there. So
much power up on this thing.
there's a lot of power. The whole idea behind the power was kind of an overkill idea, because even after we're if this van life idea peters out, I wanted to be able to kind of power a small building to live in off of it. So like we can run everything in a house outside of a microwave, which we don't use microwaves anymore, but this could power a small 2-bedroom house without running a microwave on it.
How about a magic bullet? That was something I always wanted to run in my van.
Oh,
Yeah,
I
for
can
sure.
I can run my coffee grinder.
We can run our
which
coffee
is in here,
grinder,
and then I also have.
we can run.
I do have a magic bullet if I pull it out.
We can
Nice.
run a Vitamix in here if we wanted to. Yeah.
Crazy. So what's your battery situation like?
We only have one.
We have one 100 amp hour lithium battery,
Mm-hmm.
which is underneath Gracie's ass right there. And lithium's a kind of a better option to run than gel batteries or lead acid batteries, because it's recyclable for the first point. Like that's like really important, and you can actually discharge it the whole 100 amp hours without damaging the life of the battery. So like your car battery, your lead acid battery in your car, it'll not start your car after 50% of its life. So if you have 100 amp hour, well, in your car you probably have a 250 amp hour battery, so it won't start your car at 125 amp hours. But if it gets below that, it'll only ever charge back up to like 10% less than its normal lifespan, whereas lithium can regenerate and recharge itself completely. So and it's completely recyclable, so when its life is over, you can actually take a portion of it, recharge it, and put it into a new battery.
We've only run out of power a handful of times ever with our solar system with only one battery.
4 or 5 times with just the one. And we don't really police our battery usage at all. it'll take 4 or 5 days without sunlight for us to run out of power.
And does your battery have to be vented out, or no? Is it sealed?
No, it's sealed. It's in the back. It was like if it was in the back. If you go back, it's like right behind the toolbox in the back.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
So what's it been like living in a van in a global pandemic? Has there been any noticeable changes there, or?
Sit back down.
Honestly,
We feel really lucky, I will say. Like, I mean, lucky in a sense that we knew we had a safety net if we had to like bail and like get out of a city or go like live on BLM or something. So we feel lucky in that sense that we could actually do that, because at one point we did buy a good month worth of groceries and water and everything we needed to be able to do that. If that ever happened, which we really hoped it wasn't going to come to that, and it didn't. But I mean, with this, been the two of us in here for the last, however many months now, which it always is, but even without working, and we're doing well.
yeah. I mean, we're pretty socially distant people anyway.
Fair enough.
The hardest part was not being able to work, but
which we could have worked. We had the option of working, but we were getting ready to come back to Indiana anyway, so it made sense for us to actually go on cafe and take that, which we were lucky to be able to do that and take the drive at that time. The most interesting was driving across the country, though, during this time.
Yeah, what was that like? Was that some Westworld shit or what?
It was kind of strange. Like, every state had a completely different vibe.
Completely.
We stayed pretty much, we did it, like, we'd never done it before, and we drove from Phoenix to Indiana in 3 days.
We've never done that in a sense. We always take a month in between coming from state to state.
Yeah, and it was really, like, how varied it was between the states. Like
Arizona was kind of on a relaxed vibe. Like, they had shut all the restaurants and everything down as far as that goes, but it was still fairly relaxed. Like, we hadn't actually worn masks until they initiated it for us wearing them at work.
Yeah.
And then we got to New Mexico on our drive.
New Mexico was pretty shut down. Shut
down and kind of paranoid and freaked out. Like, even just being at the gas station, which I hardly went into one at all. Like,
if you'd walk around in New Mexico, people would like back up from you, like, to keep distance from people. Yeah. Texas, they didn't really give a shit. They were all hanging out, like.
Because we actually stayed overnight in Texas. That was our first stop. In Amarillo. Right?
Yeah, and then Oklahoma kind of started to sink in. Like, there's more people taking precautions, and then we got to Indiana. This is like the most conservative shutdown feeling that we've had so far.
Mm-hmm.
Like, really? I felt weird not wearing a mask anywhere, as to where I was like, oh, these people wearing a mask are kind of out there crazy. Like,
we're not judging whether people are wearing masks or not wearing masks. Yeah. So we're just gonna put that info out. Like, that's the best choice for everybody right now. It's probably to wear a mask.
Yeah,
so
that's not where this is.
But we were in an area that it wasn't really being enforced at all.
Yeah, going from someplace in Arizona where it wasn't being enforced and coming back here to where it's like the norm was an adjustment for sure. But it's always an adjustment when we drive across the country. Like, every state has its own culture, and every state has its own, like, identity and what they believe in. And, like, we take trips to the South, and it's going back to, like, what kind of feels like 20, 30 years ago through some places in the South, and then emerging into what Phoenix, which is almost like LA, which is like super progressive. And then we'll go up to the mountains and the Rockies, and it's like a whole different vibe. Everybody's super fucking chill. Like, and then we drive across the Midwest, and you're back in this whole kind of Bible Belt established, region where I've been doing this for my whole life, and my dad's been doing this for his whole life, and his dad's been doing this for his whole life, and you can kind of pick up on shit like that. And then you get more to the East Coast where it's a little bit more progressive and an idea of, okay, well, all the history has started here, but then, you know, it kind of it's a growing area as well. That's kind of our big reason for traveling around. It's just like you get immersed in so many different cultures, and especially when you're on like highways and going into gas stations and like small towns where it's like you're invading these people's natural territory as an outsider and seeing how they interact with you, knowing you're from a different place because your license plate says Indiana on it, and you immediately get treated differently. So
how often are you like bending over to pump gas, Will, and you get catcalled by some guy because you're like in the sticks?
He gets called ma'am a lot. We've been in a lot of restaurant situations where someone walks up here and like, and how are you two ladies doing?
A few times I'll get a drink out of it though, so it's not like I'm not offended by it. I mean, my toenails are painted, so it's acceptable. It's an acceptable assumption.
So funny.
Oh my God.
Yeah, I recall like, you know, spending like 6 or 7 hours on the road, and you get out of your van to get gas or whatever, and like all of a sudden you stick out like a sore thumb, like you look like some sort of homeless vagabond or something, and you could tell people are kind of curious as to your situation and like what you're doing in this like giant van and stuff like that. Do you guys ever get asked for like tours by random folks, and how do you feel about that? Do you give them, or is it weird? Or
we get asked like a lot. Like I can think of one incident, just like the most recent one. We were actually hiking at Squaw Peak. Well, no, it's not called that anymore. We're at Squaw Peak, Piestoa Peak in Phoenix. And these people were just kind of walking by, and they're like, "Oh, we see her," because we had the door up. We had just got back from our hike, and they're like, "Oh, you guys have a van built out. Oh, do you guys live in it?" So start a whole conversation. And next thing we know, they're from somewhere in Canada. I can't remember where. And then they're literally in our van walking through. And Will's doing almost the exact same thing he just did now, like showing them everything and the solar system and everything else. And, you know, it happens probably 1 out of 5 times that we talk to people that they actually end up in our van. So, yeah, taking a little tour, which is fine. We don't mind sharing.
No, it's nice because, like, it's this weird thing that, like, even we both did. We started looking at YouTube videos and all this stuff and getting fascinated with it, and just like really just like spending a whole lot of time researching and looking into what the whole thing is. Mm-hmm. And then hearing that same thing from all these other people, and then they don't actually like go and do it. It's kind of like, oh, why didn't you? You know, like what were you thinking? Like, if you have the stream and you have the capacity, like, these people have jobs where they're working remotely and all these things. It's like, why didn't you just try it? It's at the end of the day, you still have a badass like a camper vehicle. You can go do your normal stuff that you were doing. Like,
for sure.
I am curious to see if we'll see even a bigger like influx of van lifers after this COVID situation, and people are like, the majority of the world obviously is working remotely right now. So are we going to see even more people like, well, screw it. Why am I paying this rent? I'm just going to do this now. You know, why am I paying this mortgage? Like, let's just.
Yeah, because that's kind of how it fell into our life. It was like, well, at the end of the day, we can go back to doing what we were doing, and we'd still have like our getaway vehicle that we know the ins and outs of completely. So
yeah, I mean, there isn't a more adaptable living situation than a van, right? Like,
there's really not. And I can honestly say after 2.5 years, and I actually said this to someone today that I knew at work when I was there this morning, that I don't know if I can go back to actually living in a house. I don't know. Like, we love it. Like, you know, we're in here in this amount of space every day together, and we even actually work together, you know, and we're around each other all the time. And I don't know. I think we have a pretty good life and a really good situation, and we love it. Like, it's so easy. You know, I was telling him earlier, I'm like, he's like, well, I was like, just look in here. And he's like, yeah, he's like, you keep a clean house. And I'm like, but it's kind of part of my routine. And it's important to do that because if we didn't do that in here, it would really get out of control quickly. And so, like, I wasn't worried about doing this, but it's like, it's interesting to see how easy your life can be. And I think everyone could experience this, you know. So I have to sweep, I have to make the bed, you know, wipe down the counters, but it takes me 20 minutes.
20, yeah.
I don't know if I want to go back, not just the cleaning aspect, but we're comfortable and we really love it.
There's definitely something to be said for like simplicity and like having to be choosy about like what possessions you own, and like I think that there's a lot of benefits that come from that.
It's just, it's that self-awareness of like, okay, if I'm going to buy a new pair of shoes, then I'm going to figure out what I'm going to do with this other pair of shoes. You know, it's not just like, okay, I'm just going to go get on a shopping spree today. We really, everything we buy or purchase or bring in here has to have a purpose or a need or is a replacement, and then something is happening to the thing it's being replaced. And it's a good feeling to have that kind of control over your life. You know, it doesn't feel out of control at all. It feels very in control, even though it looks like probably to some people like this is not a stable situation, but it's really to us, you can say.
Yeah, I mean, it's comfortable. Before even we came into this, it was kind of like we were sitting in our 2-bedroom apartment and like on the couch together, and it's like, well, when we're home, we're spending all of our time 5-6 feet away from each other, so it wasn't like that big of a deal. Like maybe one person would be up cooking in the kitchen or whatever, but at the end of the day, we were just sitting on the couch together, and it was just kind of like, this is normal, to the point where now it even feels like we have our own spaces in here. Like she has her seat that turns around and she can do her thing over there. I can sit on this bench right here and look the other way and do my thing over here, and it's,
if we really need a long time, we put our AirPods in, go for a walk, go on a hike, go on a bike ride.
Yeah,
even just go sit outside, which we spend a lot of time outside, which I think is an amazing thing to say in your life. Like 60% of our day is probably spent outside.
Yeah, that's awesome. I feel like that outside space is definitely important to take advantage of when you're living the van life.
It really is. And the one thing we didn't really talk about, we probably should, maybe you should talk about this, or I can. We have a really kind of lucky van life situation. If people are wondering how we really do it, is we work for a really great company that allows us to transfer back and forth, because our main stays right now are we stay in Phoenix half the year and then Indy half the year. And we have parking in both. So we're never out like really just seeking for places to park our van or stay. We're lucky enough that his parents have acreage, and we, as you kind of saw when he walked around, we camp out by their barn. And then in Phoenix at my mother's house, we actually camp in her driveway right in downtown Phoenix, and it's perfectly legal and allowed, and it's a great situation. So it's made us really workable for us between our jobs and the situation we have. So we are grateful about that, which I probably should have said at the beginning when you asked me that. But
it's not like we're out here kind of scrounging around on the road at all times. We spend a solid 4 to 5 months in permanent locations, and then spend a month traveling. Well, that was
Gotcha.
the old norm, but yeah. So we're very fortunate in that aspect, and that's made it easier for sure.
Yeah, I could definitely see that playing into you guys being able to make it this long. 2.5 years, you said at the beginning, living in a van is having that, those places to go back to that are like solid, stable living situations, and you're not having to worry about like sheriffs knocking on your door at 2 a.m. or whatever and saying you can't be here and stuff like that. I feel like that stability is definitely a blessing for sure.
it really is. And that's why I wanted to include that for people who are watching this and thinking about doing it. It's like, that is what's allowed us to do this. And so if you can map out those places, whether maybe it's more than 2, maybe it's, multiple things that you're going to and moving more often than that. But if you do work remotely just within your own space, that might be more feasible too.
And we've run into a lot of people even that aren't like in the whole Breathe community that invite us to stay with them, and I'm sure there's some way we could work out compensation to be able to share their property and their resources with them. And I wouldn't feel uncomfortable, like they give us their email addresses, like we run into them along the way, and I wouldn't feel uncomfortable reaching out to them because it's like a genuine connection. Like people we showed the band to, they're always like, oh, if you ever need to come to
Alberta or wherever they're from, I can't remember.
Like,
I don't know. We're just coming up with it right now.
If you ever want to stay in Vermont, or if you ever want to stay, if you ever want to stay in Washington, like, here's my email address. Hit us up. We have a shower. We have beds. And, I mean,
even though we never take advantage of anyone's beds or anything, like, we've literally only not slept in the van in these 2.5 years. Maybe 20 days total between coming home for Christmases to Indy and
that's combined between the two of us, like 10 days each. Like this is our bed. This is where we rest our head and sleep at. So
definitely, yeah. I recall living in a van and getting invited to stay in people's driveways or whatever. And they'd be like, we blew up an air mattress for you, and like you can stay here. And like, I always kind of said like, oh, thanks, but like I'll just stay in my van. Like I've got my bed and my pillows and like my phone charger's already set. Like it's just like better for me to stay in my room, that I already have. And like that was something that I think a lot of people kind of got caught off guard by. Like, oh, you actually are like quite comfortable in there. It's like, yeah, all I need is a place to park. I don't really need your blow-up mattress.
Sometimes we need a shower.
Fair.
You might not need a shower, but
Dakota's seen us a lot for some showers. We give a lot of coffee. When we come, we give coffee.
A worthy trade. Alex Underwood is asking what model and make your battery is.
So we have we are
the
Battleborn Batteries is the company we get from. They're based in Nevada, Las Vegas, Nevada. You can look them up. They do I think they started out as like swapping out for fishing boats and things like that, where the 12-volt batteries, the lead acid batteries just weren't lasting as long as they needed to do for their trolling motors or whatnot. And it's just a drop-in, so you can literally put one of these Battleborn batteries in your car. You don't have to have any sort of switchover system to get the lithium to run as a lead acid battery. So
interesting.
And they do 10-year warranties on all their batteries, which is like unheard of on a car battery, on any sort of battery.
Yeah, that is crazy.
And I mean, we haven't had any troubles.
Nothing.
Like, we've discharged it 4 times, and it'll still run as good as the day it was new. So.
And it comes back quick. Like, we've gotten up in the morning and not had power to get ready for work because it's been raining for 4 days or something. But if it gets all sunny that afternoon, by the time we get home from work, we have power again.
Court Whitfield says hello.
Hi, Court.
If anyone has any questions for van life veterans, Will and Heather, feel free to put them in the comments, and we'll get them up on screen for you. If you're just tuning in, this is a Breathe Pulse. We're here every Wednesday. Today's pulse is about living the van life with 2 of our very own longtime community members, Will and Heather. Follow Breathe on all the socials at Breathe Fest if you're looking to catch more pulses. There's that tag there. And we'd love to answer some questions. We've got maybe 10 or 15 more minutes to spare. And so if anyone's got questions for these folks, put them in. Oh, Alex Underwood asking about cold starting. So there might be some confusion on... Can you talk a little bit about like your starter battery versus your auxiliary?
Yeah, for sure. Our auxiliary, we have a whole closed house battery system that's run on solar. Our starter batteries just a lead acid battery from Mercedes, and we do have a glow plug to start the diesel battery. So you have to you turn the power on, and then you hit the glow plug, and it'll make a really loud noise and heat up the engine block, and then you can run the starter battery in cold starting. So
the one thing that's actually connected still to the original Mercedes like car battery is our fan, which came with the vehicle, was actually installed.
Really?
We didn't really talk about that.
So the starter and this fan are the only thing that are running off of the.
And it runs on remote. It's nice because we can actually set it for a temperature for like 70 degrees. This is kind of going off topic, and it'll come on at that temperature to make sure it stays 70 degrees in here, whatever we want it to be at, which is really nice, and closes if it rains.
But as she turns it on, I'm gonna start freezing.
I turn it off.
As far as I know, I think this is literally a ballpark. I think it's 10 to 20 degrees Fahrenheit. Below 10 to 20 degrees Fahrenheit is when our lithium won't run as efficient as it would normally.
Gotcha. Your auxiliary battery.
Our auxiliary battery, yeah.
Okay.
So it's not at freezing point like a lead acid battery where you'd need to heat it, but it's lower than that. But I think the lowest rated is 10 degrees. And people can check me on that and tell me I'm wrong. But that's just what I remember off the top of my head from 2 years ago when I put it in here. So.
Okay, here's an interesting question in the comments. The question everyone's been wondering: where do you poop?
I've been waiting. Why hasn't anyone asked? It's taking this long.
That's the first question. Well, Rachel, as you eat food, it goes down your esophagus, into your stomach, into your digestive system, and then you produce fecal matter that comes out of your rectum. And wherever that lands, it lands. No, I'm just kidding. Mostly, honestly, at Starbucks at work in the morning is my poop spot. I'm pretty regular, so like clock in, do my stuff, get my 10-minute break, spend that going to the bathroom, and forget about it. On my days off, like we said, we're lucky enough to park at places that we have facilities. Pilots always have really nice restrooms. They have showers there too.
We also both have LA Fitness memberships, which doesn't.
Yeah, LA Fitness. If you just go into the sauna, take a shower, and then take the poop.
You poop in the sauna?
You said that's so wrong.
Wait, take the poop, take a shower, go into the sauna, and take another shower. I think that's the sanitary way to do it, right?
Yeah, your order of operations there seems really a little bit skewed.
But we actually have the toilet, which he didn't show in our thing, which...
Yeah, this is our number one.
It's usually just for number ones, unless there was some sort of really bad emergency.
Wait, let me see. There
you go.
So you pee in there, and then you end up with some sort of bucket or something that you can take out.
Here,
it looks like a briefcase.
I don't know if we need it. We need an example necessarily, but.
Well, we're not. We'll just show it. Like we're not without. It's nothing gross.
You guys want to know how it is?
This is real life van life.
Here's the nitty-gritty.
Then you end up with that.
And then you dump this.
You walk outside or to a toilet.
Into a toilet.
And we actually put stuff in it that allows it to be dumped.
Yeah, we used biodegradable.
If we have to dump it on the ground somewhere.
Detergent.
Gotcha. So you heard it here first, folks. When you live in the van life, best place to take a dookie is going to be the sauna. But if that doesn't do, a Starbucks bathroom should be able to hold you over just fine.
Starbucks bathroom's fine. One of the two of us will be cleaning it up after you. So
no one's allowed to use those anymore. Which is so nice. Till they open it back up. So we can't offer the Starbucks bathroom up right now. But unless you want to come work there.
It's an employees only
Which I don't
bathroom
think we talked
right
about.
now,
That's
huh?
where we both work at Starbucks, and this is the company that allows us. They let us transfer back and forth really nicely. So
That seems like a good play. Find a national company that you can pop around at. REI, Starbucks,
exactly.
grocery store chain, something like that.
Yeah, Fry's, Kroger, I think would probably be a good fit.
There you go.
Because they're the same thing.
It's a national chain. Starbucks is great, man. Like, they've taken care of us through this whole ordeal. Like, we've been getting paid for not working the whole time. So,
and then when we were working, they actually paid us more. So it's not supposed to be a shout out to Starbucks, but we do really appreciate the company and everything they've done for us right now. So
we took 3 weeks off with full pay, and
Whoa.
in a service industry minimum wage job. So
There you go. Shout out Starbucks.
we have to give it. They allow us to live this luxurious life that we have.
People seem to really like our bathroom conversation.
Oh Lord, I knew that. So you have to bring up what yours was.
yeah, where'd you take shit, Davis?
Well, hold on. I actually gotta go. Oh yeah, I've got a thing. I saw like a meme on Facebook at one point of a toilet seat that just attached to the trailer hitch on the back of a car, so that like there was no bucket or anything under it, but you just sat on a toilet seat on the back of your car. And I always thought that was a practical but not sustainable method.
I don't know if that's legally.
I think you just avoided the question right there.
Yeah.
Did you not poop over those?
I spent most of my van life not necessarily working, but like climbing and traveling around. So a lot of times I was at campsites or whatever, and I would just use the facilities of the campsite.
And
My backup option was I had the like the like bags that have kitty litter in them, you know, that like they're like meant for pooping outside, and I had a handful of those on hand.
A lot of time you got a nice draft from the pit toilets.
That's the worst part, man.
The updraft.
The updraft. It's like you're cold, you know, and it's like
I knew this was gonna go this way. I said it from so he always has to come back from the bathroom and tell me. It's freezing.
Okay, to get a little bit more appropriate, Alex asks, can you comment about monthly expenses? Or if you're not comfortable doing that, just talk a little bit about like the difference between living in a van and living in an apartment, and is it cheaper, or should people be looking to live the van life if they're already like struggling financially, or like what's the story there?
No, I mean we're comfortable with numbers. So we got this is a used van. It was 2014. It only had 9,000 miles on it when we found it. I'd been like just like on everything, and driving home one day I passed a local like used truck dealership, and they had like cherry pickers and all this kind of stuff out there, and a row of just vans, and this was sitting there. I was like, oh, they have a Mercedes Sprinter over there, and I looked, it had 9,000 miles on it. I was like, oh, that's a joke, it's got 90,000 miles on it.
It hadn't even had its first oil change,
and it was substantially less expensive than a new van, and it was a brand new van. So we ended up with a car payment. We pay $560 a month for our van payment. Our phones is another big expense, and we kind of went all out for good coverage from Sprint, which is $200 a month.
No.
So we're at like
Verizon.
Or from Verizon. Sorry, from
I'm
Verizon.
like, we don't have Sprint at all.
My bad. From Verizon, and so we're at like $750 a month.
And then
And
the
then
T-Mobile,
we have an unlimited hotspot data point from T-Mobile, which is $50 a month.
which is a good idea to have both a T-Mobile plan and, or well, if you could do that, to have two plans, because we're in places where one works really well and one doesn't, and we still have communication or
Yeah,
maps or anything like that we might need to use. So
that was kind of a happy accident. We figured it out. And then car insurance, which is another $200. And then just food and everything that you're living off of. But that turned out to be way less than what we were buying before because we don't have any place to put any food to throw away. So, I mean, we live at about
1,200,
yeah,
1,500.
a little bit over $1,000 a month.
Not including our health insurance, I guess, but yeah.
Yeah, which Starbucks helps us with their health insurance. So we'll pay like $1,500 a month is about our usual expenses
For both of us.
and that's what we were paying for our apartment. Period, without all those expenses before that.
Whoa, okay.
So we took our housing expenses down to our total living costs, basically.
Whoa. So it's definitely cheaper than
Yeah.
It is, but also we do have, like we said before, we do have the option of being able to live on properties rent free. So
that's definitely a consideration for sure.
That's
Not having
definitely
to
a
pay for the parking spot.
Yeah. I mean, if we were trying to stay at a campsite or something year round, I'm sure it's another $1,200 or $1,500 on top of that. So,
Fair
which would put
enough.
us right back to where we started.
But yeah, I mean, that is one great thing about living in a van is most people know folks across the country, you know, or they have family in this state or that state. And if you live in a van, it's not at all a hassle for you to drive across the country and stay with those friends or family. And so
That's true. And we do a lot of work trade. Like, I work for my dad up here, like, helping him with all his chores around the property. And then,
And my mom's health is not good, and so she's doing fine. Just I shouldn't say it like that, but she's doing well right now. But I do like basically take care of her for 6 months out of the year, and so which helps my brother and her with the cost of any other care coming in. So we're not completely staying rent free. Like
just,
so,
yeah,
it is.
we don't just squat here. We don't just squat in the places. We try to contribute to what's going on. So.
And Will helps with my mom, and I help here too as well doing things. Like there's always stuff we can do around here. I mean, there's 11 acres to mow. Many of us can get on the tractor and mow. So.
well, you guys definitely have a spot in Pittsburgh should you ever need a place to stay. And I got plenty of room.
I know we haven't really gone east in a while. Like it's been a while since we've been to Pennsylvania. But we need to make that trip because we always just leave here and go west. So
Is that your barn cat?
This is our barn. This is midnight.
it was actually my cat that now lived at Will's parents' house before we moved into the van even, and then they made her live in the barn. So she has a good living situation. She has a little heated house and everything down there, but when we're here, then now she lives in the van.
Yeah.
Well, hey, we just passed an hour. I think this is a good time to wrap things up.
I think so too.
You got any closing words or sentiments or anything to leave your fans with?
I just think if you're thinking about doing it, about moving into a van, about wanting a simpler life, about exploring, feeling, getting out of the situation you're in any sort of way, it's an option, and you can really turn any vehicle into a home if you're just creative with it. Like, we didn't have really any plans when we did this. We just kept building it like one step at a time, and it can be easily done. So I encourage everyone to try it and do it. And, there's always the other way. So
Yeah. One of our big mottos is you can always go backwards if you want. So it doesn't really make sense to stay where you're at.
if you're not happy,
Not even if you're not happy, but to try something new. You can do what you want to do, and you can always go back to what you were doing, because you know how to do that already. So
Great words. Great words. This has been a Breathe Pulse. My name's Davis. That's Heather and Will. We will catch you guys next week. Let me just quickly look up what our next pulse is so I can plug it. This Sunday we have Venus retrograde in Gemini 2020 with Carly. So tune in for that. Don't miss it. Follow Breathe on all the social platforms at BreatheFest. Love you guys. Say it back.
Love you.